I thought this would be kind of a fun excavation into what I'm listening to any given month. We're at the end of March here, and I thought maybe at the end of every month I can share what my 10 most played songs were of for that month. I Apple tracks this stuff. I play all my music through Apple, even my own vinyl rips. I save it all into the Apple system, Apple Music system. So, according to Apple, these are my 10 most played songs of the past month. And you guys can laugh, you guys can cry, you can judge me, which I know you will. You rivet heads can bitch and moan like you always do for not including something. You're not going to find one industrial song on here, rivet heads, so deal with it. I don't want to rant too much, but every time I post a industrial video, I just did the Ministry album. Like I get the most watches and comments, but I also get the most amount of pricks and assholes commenting. It's amazing. Like rivet heads are a lot of them are just dicks. They can't help it. They have to criticize every little tiny thing that you leave out. This is the consistency with doing industrial music videos is that you will leave things out because you're only doing a 15-20 minute video, and then that's the one thing people notice. A lot of rivet heads are very OCD. I mean, I've got the proof. You want proof? Watch my channel. I remove most of the comments that annoy me, so you might not know or have a clue what I'm talking about. But anyway, back to my top 10 list. This is my top 10 list for March 2025. It is what it is. You guys can laugh at me. I welcome you to laugh at me and my music taste, but most of these tracks are older songs too. I go back to the well. I've been going back to the well this month. There's really only one song that's new and one song that's not so old, and then everything else is old stuff. And it's amazing to me, like tracks like Hardfloor, Experience are old, but yeah, this track is over 30 years old now, man. December 92, yeah. Good Lord, 32 years old now, over 32 years old. But these are my top 10 for March. These are it. And yeah, Hardfloor was number one. I'm ranking these too. These are all in order, the top 10. So this is a fantastic song. I can't even count how many times I've listened to this song in my life. This song came out in 1992. It blew me away. It changed my life. Maybe the most played song I've ever laid the needle down inside a club as a DJ. This could be number one. This is one of those songs I just never stopped playing. I wouldn't play it in every set, but listening to it in 2025, it just hasn't lost any of its power. And God, it's got a lot of power. Oh my God. I bought a car. I have a new car that I bought just a few years ago. And one of the reasons I bought it, and you guys can scoff at me all you want, I don't blame you, is that it came with this stock stereo that's just bomb ass. It is a kick ass stereo. One of the reasons I bought it. Music's important to me, as you know. If I buy a car, I want to make sure I get a bomb-ass stereo. So I upgraded this version of the car I bought. I got the premium package, if you will. I have the monthly car payments to prove it, which really suck right now. But I digress. It's got a really awesome stereo. And songs like this, Hardfloor, Experience, holy shit. It bumps, man. It bumps hard. If you've never heard this song, I recommend it. It's not for everyone. It says hard trance, but it's not trance. This is just relentless acid house. This is relentless techno. It's amazing. 30 odd years later, it hasn't lost any of its potency. It's amazing, this song. Totally changed my life, and it still does. I listen to it now, and it just like gets my blood going. It gets me motivated to do shit. One of the greatest songs I've ever heard in my life, Hardfloor. It doesn't surprise me this is my number one. And probably on any given month, it would be in my top 25 somewhere. I listen to it all the time. It's just one of those songs that I go back to. Sometimes you need a song that just kicks you in the ass and gets you ready for the day, and this is one of those songs. Number two is this, Orbital, and the song is Tension. It's on the All Together album. This is the cover for the All Together. I just looked this up too as I pulled it up on Discogs, and there's no vinyl release still for this, even in 2025. I'm a little surprised by that, considering this is Orbital. I remember at the time in 2001 it came out, there was no vinyl release that I saw. And to this day, no vinyl release. Kind of interesting. Out of the entire Orbital catalog, this is maybe their most odd album, the one album that sticks out. It's never really grown on me like I thought it would. Almost 25 years old now, which is insane to think about. It hasn't grown on me like most great bands that I love, but Tension, the opening song, has really been scratching an itch lately. I recommend you go listen to Tension if you haven't. It's a really fun song. It's very intense, like the title suggests. The rest of the album is okay. I felt like they were kind of making their punk rock album here. The Hartnell brothers were always punk rock fans. They were doing the techno thing, but they came from a more punk rock background. I remember hanging out with the Hartnell brothers. I went and saw them live on the Insides tour, and I went backstage and hung out with them. Extremely nice guys. And I remember talking about music and movies with them, and they were talking about punk. I think it was Paul Hartnell. He was telling me one of his favorite bands growing up was the Dead Kennedys. And that's the kind of vibe and energy I feel on Tension. It's electronic, but it's punk. You're kind of feeling that Dead Kennedys vibe come out in an electronic form. It's a really fun song. Like Hardfloor before it, it's one of those songs that gets you pumped up. It's high energy. It's aggressive. And it's fun. Samples are good. Really cool vibe on that song. Orbital. Tension. That was my number two. My number three for the month was Howie B. Switch. I talked about Howie B again in one of my videos. I think I've done 3 videos on this guy. I love Howie B. I've listened to Switch a million times. Again, it's one of those songs that just gets me going for the day. Gets me pumped up. High energy. It's a hip-hop track, but it's high energy. And the remixes are good. You have Depth Charge coming in. I did a Depth Charge video this month. When I do my videos, there's a reason. I'm listening to it. I'm actively feeling inspired to pull these records out of my collection and talk about them. And so I've been listening to Switch a lot, obviously. It's number 3 on my list. My 4th played track is Edward Graham Lewis. And the track is Who the Hell. It's the last song on the album. This was my number 4. This is the only new song in my list for the month. I really love this album. I liked it from the very get-go, and now I love it. It's grown on me, like all the great albums do. Who the Hell is the last song. That song is just talking to me. It's speaking to me. It's lyrically, it's really scratching an itch for me. Lewis sounds fed up. He sounds disgusted with society on this album, and that's how I'm feeling. From the album Arit, Who the Hell, the last song. Awesome stuff. Very cool album. I recommend it very much so. Let me get that out of there. Go back to the photo. That is the only new song, like I mentioned. My next one is this. I bought this special edition of Combat Rock, what was it, 2022? Yeah, it's been out for a couple years. It comes with the album Combat Rock, which is my favorite Clash album. And it also comes with some bonus stuff. It comes with like a live album, but it comes with these extended, unedited versions. It doesn't have Rat Patrol at Fort Bragg, which was the original title for this album, and then that came out as a bootleg a number of years ago, which basically had all of the longer, unedited cuts on there. Mick Jones wanted to put out a longer version of this at the time, but he got voted out on that. The band wanted to release a single album. They had released Sandinista, which was a triple, and then they did London Calling, which was a double. Jones wanted to put out a double album. He wanted like 12 tracks of like 5, 6, 7, 8 minute long songs, like he would later do a Big Audio Dynamite. But the rest of the band were like, no, we want a single album. So they edited these songs down. But I've been listening to one track in particular, Sean Flynn, which is a great song on this album, one of the best songs in my opinion. And it's an extended version. It's like the original version I think Mick Jones wanted on the album. The version on the album is like 3 or 4 minutes, but the original uncut version is almost 8 minutes. And so I've never really sat down to listen to this version. And it's really cool. You can tell that it's Mick Jones doing what he wanted to be doing. He would eventually do this kind of stuff with Big Audio Dynamite. But his full version didn't really fly for the original Combat Rock. So it's been fun to hear this track in high quality. That's the problem with Rat Patrol at Fort Bragg, that bootleg. It's cool to hear these versions, but they don't sound all that good. They sound as good as a bootleg can be, but it's still a bootleg. It doesn't sound great. It sounds really good here. It's remastered and recut and re-whatever. And this extended version of Sean Flynn that ends up on this special Combat Rock edition, this official edition, sounds excellent. It's really good. It's that feeling of having this album in your life for a long time and then experiencing this new version of this song that you thought you knew. It's cool. I love it. So I've been listening to that a lot here in March. I've been meaning to listen to it for the last 3 years, ever since this version came out. I just haven't done it. But I've been doing it this month. Really good stuff. So that was number 5, right? Yeah. So this is my 6th most played song. Ween. I've expressed my love of Ween many times on this channel. And the song is Cold Blows the Wind. Ween's one of those bands. They're so fucking good. They have so many good songs. At least with me, I get hung up on one song. I can't stop listening to it. This will go on for years. Ween will put something out and I'll just get stuck on a song. I'll play it on repeat. And I'll ignore other cuts on the album. And then years later, I'll discover something. I'm like, man, why have I not spent more time with this song? And lately, that's been Cold Blows the Wind. I know I like that song, and I've listened to it many times. But here in March 2025, I've been listening to it a lot. Cold Blows the Wind. What a great song. Again, it's Ween. Ween has so many little hidden gems all over their albums that are so good. They have a lot of songs that are really bad, that are just terrible. I've listened to them 100 times. I keep waiting to like them. I keep waiting for them to grow on me, and it just doesn't happen. But then they have another cut like Cold Blows the Wind that's absolutely brilliant. That's the mystique of Ween, right? They'll have one song that's so goofy and kind of stupid and you never really care to hear it again. And then the next song is just utter brilliance. Like, holy shit, where'd this come from? Ween's really good at that. That's why I love them. Cold Blows the Wind on their best album, The Mollusk, in my opinion. That was 6. Okay, here's 7. Out of Sync is the track. Devo is the band. Oh No, It's Devo is the album. One of my favorite albums, one of my favorite bands, and I have been listening to Out of Sync lately. This is another one of those albums where every cut is a killer. And I've listened to this album maybe 5 million times in my life, but lately Out of Sync has been the vibe I need. This whole album is, I think, in terms of, I talked about this with my best albums. This is my personal favorite Devo album. The reason is I just think it's their most consistent from start to finish. I love Devo and all their albums, but I feel like all of their albums, with the exception of this one, there's always like at least one or two cuts where you're like, "Yeah, okay, that's all right. Maybe they're flirting with filler here. Like maybe that track was filler. Maybe it didn't need that song." Oh no, it's Devo is the one exception, I think. This is where like every song just like bleeds into the next and it's perfect. Out of Sync is the track that I've been rocking lately. Awesome song. Number 8, The Stranglers, Duchess. Arguably their biggest, their most, not biggest, but their most poppy song. It's arguable. Stranglers definitely flirted with a lot of pop songs, but their biggest, most grand pop moment is arguably Duchess. Amazing song, amazing video, amazing energy, amazing album, The Raven. The Raven's a strange album. It's funny because the rest of The Raven doesn't sound anything like Duchess. This album kind of has a vibe, a mood, and then the Duchess, Duchess pops up toward the end. It's like, whoa, super high energy, and then it goes back to where it was. It's kind of I'm trying to find the right word. I was going to say solemn album for Stranglers. I don't know that I want to say it's solemn, but it definitely has a vibe. Like The Raven is an accurate title for the album. The Raven symbolizes a lot of things, and I think it's an appropriate title. But then Duchess happens. Boom! Confetti flying in the air. I mean, it's super sarcastic. It's a very sardonic, dry song, like a lot of shit they did. But it's undeniably pop. A really cool album and a great song. Yeah, Duchess, number 8. Number 9 is Liars, and the song is Can't Hear Well. This is a relatively new album. God, this album came out 11 years ago, almost to the day. Blows my mind. I remember every little thing going on in my life in March 2014. Boy, different time for me for sure. 2014 was a fantastic year for me. One of the As you get older, you go back and you look at your life, and at least for me, I look at my life in terms of years. I look at specific years. I'm like, boy, that was a rough year, and that was a great year. And 2014 was a great year for me. The year I'm having in 2025 is almost the polar opposite of that. But 2014 was a really, really fantastic year for me. I hit some major milestones, both personally and professionally. Huge year, arguably the greatest year I've ever had. 2014. Yeah, hurts my heart a little bit to think of where I am now in 2025, but whatever. That's another video. But this was one of my favorite albums of the year in 2014 for sure. Mess, Liars. And Can't Hear Well is the song on this album that I've been listening to. Can't Hear Well, kind of like Duchess on Raven, Can't Hear Well is a song that kind of stands out. This is a very high energy album. This is the Liars rave album, really. High energy, lots of disco, lots of techno. Their dance album. This is the Liars dance album. Liars are known to always do something different on every album, and they do. And with Mess, they chose to amp up the energy and make a rave dance album, really. And it works. Great album. My favorite album. Obviously, I'm predisposed to dance music and rave music and techno and house, as you guys know. But Can't Hear Well is the one song on the album that's kind of ambient. They tone down the energy on that one. That's been my vibe with Liars lately, and just my vibe in general. A lot of the tracks on here, on my list here, are super high energy, but not this one. Can't Hear Well has been scratching an itch. And then number 10, my 10 most mouth, I'm lisping now. Number 10 on my 10 most played for March 2025 is this Nail, Cassiopeia. Fucking brilliant track. This came out originally in 1993. Nail was he's part of a lot of shit, but at the time it came out, he was part of a collective called DIY. This was on an album called Strictly for Groovers. It came out on Warp, and one of many great Warp albums. And about when did this come out? 2019, yeah. A little over 5 years ago, Nail put this track out as a 12-inch. You know, he put his song out exclusively as a 12-inch. The Strictly for Groovers album, DIY was a collective. It was a bunch of guys who put out music, and they recorded and released music as DIY. So if you bought a DIY record, you might get a Nail record, but you might get somebody else's record too. It was a collective of people, and it's really good. And I would highly recommend you pick up Strictly for Groovers. It's a great album. It's got ambient house and techno and all this stuff compiled together. It was a single entity, but a collection of people making music. Really good stuff. What I love about this 12-inch, by the way, is Nail, he puts this Cassiopeia track all on its own on one side. The track's like 10 minutes long, so it gets its own side to breathe. On the album, it's crammed onto one side of vinyl with another long song. It still sounds fine, but to be able to have this track all on its own on one side of vinyl is really cool. And I've always loved this track. I always thought Cassiopeia was the standout on Strictly for Groovers. And I've been listening to this lately. It's over 30 years old and it hasn't lost any of its power. It's one of my all-time favorite house cuts. Check out anything by DIY, by the way. Not just the stuff they put out on Warp. They have their own label, and that's a whole different video I could get into. But Nail is also, he was in a band called Bent. Fucking fantastic band, Bent. They put out a series of albums that are just beautiful, beautiful stuff. Anything from Bent, I would highly recommend. My personal favorite Nail-related song, though, is this, Cassiopeia. And I've been rocking it. This is a song that I've been rocking for over 30 years. It's never stopped. This is another song like that earlier one where I think any given month, this might be in my top 20 list. I just listen to it all the time. Makes me feel good. Takes me back to a time that I have a lot of admiration and affection for. One of my all-time favorite dance tracks. Nail, Cassiopeia. And that is my top 10 for March 2025. What are some of yours? What are your most played tracks this month? Let me know. I'd love to hear about it. I'll talk to you next time. Goodbye.